Okay, welcome everyone to the UCLA UX Fall Quarter event. I'm Lauren Cullen, co-chair of UCLA UX and senior UI UX designer in the Office of Advanced Research Computing, where I design mobile apps and websites and web platforms for research community here at UCLA. And Talasi, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you, Lauren. Yeah, I'm Tulsi Athikamsetti. I'm a business system analyst at DTS, and I have been working as a developer earlier for past 17 years, and I have been also doing web designing and development for all these years. And now I'm collaborating with Lauren for UCLA UX to bring in like more like support community and learn help each other and learn about UX. Um, UX. That's all I have.
Great. So let's start with the main presentation today, which is prototyping with Figma and the UCLA Design Kit. I'm going to talk a little bit about UX design in general, focusing on visual design and interactive prototyping using Figma. And then we're very excited to have Paul Choi here with us today. He is the digital art director in Strategic Communications, and he is going to talk about the UCLA Design Kit. So to start, let's look at user experience design and just take a large step back at the process and looking at, the discovery phase, design phase, and validation phase. And in the discovery phase, we are defining the scope of our project. We're researching our users and the market, and we're analyzing our research, using things such as user personas, user journeys, storyboards, and more. And then we can take this research, this analysis, and create strategic designs that will best serve our clients and serve the users that are going to be using it. So, and this is how we can create strategic visual design using things such as design systems to build them out and creating interactive prototypes. And those interactive prototypes are really helpful for stakeholder meetings and for initial testing and for communicating with developers. And then the developers can take them and build the actual app out, which requires further testing, usability testing, accessibility testing, and more. And this is, of course, a nonlinear process. We move through it as needed, depending on the project and what comes up in the development. And it's a very iterative process. And we're going to focus in on the visual design aspect today, looking at developing a design system and implementing product branding. And the first thing that we always think about when we start implementing the visual design is accessibility, because in having good UX means making an app as usable as possible for as many people as possible. So with accessibility, we're considering such things, including color contrast, making sure that there's sufficient contrast between the foreground and the background. Any, color combinations related to color blindness that we want to stay away from. Making sure the text is legible, creating a system with a text of hierarchy. So there's an H1, H2, body text, and more. Of course, eliminating any distracting UI elements such as autoplay slideshows or anything that will distract users. And of course, making it compatible for a screen reader. So for example, having every field have a submit button that the screen reader can find and use. So this is all very important as we start approaching our designs. And with colors, there are a lot of great resources to help. It's important to use at least level AA of color accessibility. This is what UCLA does, and that's having the contrast ratio of the text and user interface elements to the background. That's what that is referring to. And of course, the body text and the link text also has to be distinguishable, 3:1 contrast ratio. Some tools that can help with that include WebAIM online, or within Figma, there are several different um, plugins that you can use as well. Stark is a great one that has both a free and premium version that has some additional features as well to help with accessibility. And then from this, we can start building out our design system. And this is where we start to gather all of our different UI elements, including logos and icons and colors and all the text format and everything. The grid and navigation system, all of the different elements can be built out in the design system. And we can create components of them so that any repeated elements are instances of the components in the design system. So if we need to make any changes later, we can just go to the original component, make the change there, and it will populate to every instance in our design. And this makes for a much more streamlined workflow. And of course, we have the UCLA Design System, which we're excited to hear from Paul about a little later today. And from the design system, this is where we start building out our visual designs and creating the interactions that occur in them by wiring them together and making buttons interactive and showing all of the details of the interactions that the user is going to have. And this way we can show different versions to stakeholders or specific features and test them out and even, use them on our devices, on our phones to see how they look and feel before going into development. And the making interactive prototypes, it's getting more and more advanced every day. Figma Make has a lot of great features that can take prototypes even further. And there are a couple other products that some people have told me about that do that as well, that it's very exciting and how we're getting closer and closer to something that feels like a developed product. And of course, we can use our interactive prototypes and our designs in dev mode in Figma so that we can communicate directly with the developers and provide things such as code snippets, spacing, text, fonts, the images, the icons easily downloadable. All of the information is right in dev mode. So I'm going to go ahead and do a brief Figma demo to show you how you can get started in Figma. Before I do that, does anyone have any questions on what we've talked about so far? Let's see in the chat, it looks like Elizabeth said, do UCLA employees get free access to Figma? So actually, I do have some information on that. So for the Figma licenses at UCLA, if you are eligible for an education license, you can apply um, on the Figma website, see if you're eligible for that, and that would be free. And if you're interested in an enterprise license, your department can contact Todd Weber at DTS, and he has all the information that you would need available to get started on enterprise. So a lot of people do come to us with this question because Figma is primarily the tool we primarily use on campus right now for product design. There are a lot of other tools out there that, a lot of them are really great too, but right now Figma is the leader and has a lot of the most advanced features. And I'm going to go into Figma, and I use the desktop app. It's also available as a web app. If you're doing a lot of design work, though, you're probably going to want to download the desktop app. And I'm going to go ahead and just to my team folder, all projects, and I'm going to just start a new project and call this demo. And this basically creates a folder. I'm not going to add anyone to it, but you can add your team in there. And this is where you can start to add any type of Figma file. Today we're working in Figma design file, but there are all of these other types of files here too that you can start. And here on the left, we have the title. So I'm going to rename this demo. You can see we have this file tab and assets tab next to it. And then you have these pages here. I find the pages really helpful for when I have to design for multiple screen sizes. So if it requires both desktop and mobile size, let's say. And this is where my layers will show as we start to have some objects that we bring onto our screen. And here we have all of our different tools here at the bottom. And on the right, we have our design panel, as well as we also can have our prototyping, click over to prototyping as well. So I'm going to start by just creating a screen on here by clicking the frame icon. And you can see over here in the design panel, we have a lot of different choices in terms of what size screen we want to use. I'm going to just click iPhone 16, and I'm going to name this the home screen and make a mobile app. And the first thing I want to do is bring in a logo. And I can bring in an image in shape tools. You can see at the bottom, image video is one of the options. If I bring in an image from here, it's going to fill the entire frame. So I'm going to actually draw a rectangle at the size that I want the logo to be and put that on my screen. And right now, by the way, I'm working in design mode. So there are 3 modes in Figma. There's draw mode, which is when you're doing illustrations, design mode, which is when you're doing the actual UI UX design, and then dev mode, which is when you're communicating with the developers about all of the different specs of the design. And now that I have my rectangle, I'm going to go into the fill. And right now it's on solid. You can see there's gradient, pattern, and also image. So I'm going to click that and I'm going to upload from computer. And here I'm just going to do the UCLA logo that I'll have somewhere on here. I'm going to use this one. And then I'm going to, instead of fill, I'm going to go ahead and fit it and change this to match the size of the logo. And you can see as I move it around on the frame, there's these red guides that appear so that I know where the center is, and it helps me move things around on the screen. I'm going to go ahead and open the rectangle tool. I want to put a hero image on here. I actually want this hero image to be at a specific aspect ratio. It can be really good to keep your aspect ratios consistent throughout the design. So once you select one, like for example, 3:2, and then I'm going to click on this lock aspect ratio icon right here, and then drag it out and just reposition it. And then for this image, I'm going to go back into the fill and select the image, but I don't have a specific image in mind. I just need a quick filler image. And I can actually now with Figma AI click make an image and just say university campus scene with buildings, and just get a quick image. You see you can select different models depending on your preference. And then it will generate something. And of course, I would go back to the UCLA image library and select the most appropriate image before releasing this, but this helps me get an idea that there will be a hero image here, and that I can go back and replace it later. So now I'm going to go ahead and create a button, and I'll make this specific size. And I'll go ahead and change the color of it. I have not uploaded UCLA's libraries yet into this document, so there are no colors to choose from. So I'm going to use the eyedropper tool and just select the blue from the UCLA logo for this example. And I'm also going to make rounded corners on this. And I'll add some text. I'll keep the same text here, but I'll make it larger. And I'm going to center it in that button. And I'll select both objects, Command G to group on a Mac. Now I'm going to move this button off of our screen onto the side, and I'm going to create a component. So here you can see in the design panel under group, there are some icons. This icon that's a diamond with 4 diamonds in it is a create component. And now I have made this into a button component. I'm going to rename it right here. And I'm going to create a second variant of this button here. And I'm going to name this click state. We don't have a hover state on a mobile app, so I'll make this click. And then I will make some changes to it. I will make the text blue and the background of the button white. And then I'll add a stroke as well to have it reverse. Now to make this button interactive, I'm going to go into the prototype section and I can click on the object that I want to make interactive. And when I hover over it, a little plus appears, or you can also click the plus over here to the right for interactions. Either way, I'm going to just drag it here and say trigger on tap, action change to the click variant. To make that instant, I'll go ahead and reverse that too, so we can see it going both directions. Go back over to design mode. I'm going to select this button and I'm going to copy it holding the option key and bring it back onto my screen here. And you can see it's now in this home frame. Button is contained in the layers panel here, and it is an instance of the original button. And I'm going to go ahead and click play for this screen. And when I click it, it changes. And so you can build out an entire app in this way and make it interactive and set for different actions and to go to new screens. I also really quickly want to show you the actions panel. There's some new actions in here from Figma. There's a lot of different AI features. This is where there's some AI translation features and rewriting features and more. Also, for first draft, that's probably the most controversial AI feature that Figma has introduced in here. It was pulled within the first couple of weeks when they originally released it because everything looked like the weather app, the Apple weather app. But they have implemented new design systems in there. It isn't really a great solution for having Figma or AI design your app for you. But if you're someone who needs to work with something on their screen, or if you're looking for a specific component type or a pattern that you want something there to start with, then it can be helpful in bringing something on the screen that you can change and make fit with your app. So I'll just give a quick example of a mobile app dashboard containing a bottom nav with 4 items. And this way I'm being very specific on an element that I want to bring into my app. I can see if I wanted to have these little cards with icons or something along those lines, and then I wanted to, of course, change the text, the icons, the colors, and everything, then I can do that. And it does give you options to change the colors. These colors are not necessarily accessible, so do keep that in mind. But here, if I wanted to bring this bottom nav into this page here, I can just go ahead and paste it in, change out the icons, change out the text, and make it my own. So, or if I wanted to bring in this top bar here to make it look more realistic, I can do that as well. So this is how you can get started very quickly in Figma, creating designs and prototyping. I want to pause and see if anyone has any questions. And please feel free to just speak up to ask any questions about it.
Yeah, quick question here.
Sure.
Brian, UX designer at UCSF. Um, how much have you experimented with Figma Make, and do you find it easier to just go in and wireframe from scratch, or have you found that using Figma Make first and then going in for the nitty-gritty details yourself is easier?
From my understanding, it's best to use Figma Make after you've created a design in Figma Design. So what I would do is create an initial proto design, at least, and then copy it and bring it into Figma Make and have that be part of the prompt. Have that design be an essential part of the prompt, and it will help Figma Make create better results, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
So that's what I'm seeing as the best workflow for it. But I'm sure there are a lot of different ways that you can use it. And what is great is it seems like they're having Make be more and more like where you can go back and forth from a design file to Make and work with it. So it seems like they're improving it every day. So that's very great to see. Yeah,
Nice.
thanks,
Thank
Brian. That's a great question. Are there any other questions before? Okay, well, great. I would like to pass this to Paul. Really fortunate to have Paul with us here today to talk about the UCLA Design Kit and a little bit about Figma. And then, of course, at the end, we can also have time for any announcements or additional questions that people may have. So, yeah, take it away, Paul.
Thanks, Lauren. Hi, everyone. My name's Paul Choi. I'm the digital art director here at UCLA Strategic Communications, and I helped create and maintain the UCLA Design System along with Colin Bean Gordon, our UX, and Alex To, our lead developer. So I guess today I'll show you more specifically how the UCLA Design Kit works with our broader ecosystem, the design system, and how it's been helping teams and stakeholders spin up new sites without starting from scratch. So let me just share my screen. And I just want to provide a quick overview of the design system. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so our design system. This was started a couple years ago, and our mission was pretty simple. It was to empower teams to create consistent, on-brand, more importantly, accessible digital experiences. We had over 2,400 subdomains at ucla.edu. A lot of them were outdated, so it's kind of been a slow process of kind of getting everything up to speed. Um, In 2018, we launched our brand guidelines website, and it mainly provided basic digital assets. In 2021, we had our web component library for developers, and essentially one site was used for designers and the other site was used for developers. Um, so as we had a growing need to spin up new sites and to support stakeholders, campus partners, we needed to kind of create a new system that kind of put both of them together. So here's kind of a quote we pulled from the Nielsen Group. A design system serves as a single source of truth for design and development teams, providing them with a common language and a shared set of tools. So I guess it's the main thing. We want to create a source of truth. So whether it's a dev or a designer or an agency, just to point them all to the same place. Um, so what is a design system exactly? It's comprised of styles, components, along with documentation. So styles are things like fonts, colors, spacing, and the grid. Components are buttons, cards, menus, and form fields. And the documentation is basically following best practices for accessibility and usage guidelines. So this essentially provides a foundation for our design system. And I'll provide links in the chat so you could reference all of this on our website. Why did we need a design system? So UCLA, it's decentralized. So there's you kind of have a broad range of sites here where some units have a large group of developers, content creators, designers, and there's other units that just have kind of like a coordinator trying to do everything all at once. So this kind of meant to serve as a shared set of resources for teams across UCLA to use to create efficiency, consistency, and to develop sites faster. So something as simple as a button, the logic behind it is uh, there's a lot that goes into it, including spacing, the iconography, consistent iconography, the color contrast ratio, like Laura mentioned, the size. There's a specific size for touch target that you want to stay within. So establishing all these kind of helps address the accessibility part as it feeds into other components. So you build components with other components. So how's the design system used? So we have our design system website and we have a code base for our developers and we have the toolkit, which is essentially the design kit for our designers. Um, and this kind of gives you uh, kind of a sneak peek of how components are used or pulled from the library. And I'll go into this in detail. And we have our code base for our developers. And we're still working to align some of our CMSs. Right now, we have our WordPress theme, and we're working to align it with UCLA's SiteDen theme. And overall, it's to create, again, sites faster, quicker, um, more consistent, and accessible. So let me go into the actual design kit. Actually, before I do that, let me share some links that you guys could reference. That's our design system. We also created a form to access our design kit, and we're basically trying to track how many people are using it and get some feedback. It's kind of been um, a slow growing process, trying to uh, increase the adoption rate here at UCLA. So there's the form, and here's a link for adding the library. So as Lauren mentioned, we have two design kits. We have one for an education version for staff, for educators, I believe, and then we have the enterprise version, and that's for staff and faculty and student workers. So I know there's a gray area with students and student workers. We normally don't provide access to students, but if you're a student worker, then you'll get access to the design kit. Let me share kind of the process of the design kit. So once you're granted access to a design kit, this is kind of how it looks. And this breaks down how it works. It starts off with a guide on how to access the variants for the components and the different styles. And I'll go into that as well as some general tips for usability. Here's our layout grid. This describes our layout grid. And so we have a fixed, it's a flexible grid and then it's fixed after a certain point for desktop, at which it doesn't expand anymore. Spacing, these are kind of our spacing rules. So we follow the scale, a consistent scale for spacing as well as typography. So nothing is really random. Um, we kind of follow uh, general rule for everything. Our colors, and this is meant to meet accessibility guidelines. This talks about our logos and how to obtain specific departmental logos. Our iconography, if you were to create new icons, this kind of gives you the grid of what to follow. So there's consistency across the icons, as well as where to pull general icons. And for the most part, we follow Google Materials icons library. Um, this talks about interaction state, as well as image ratio. So instead of using an odd shape, these kind of follow the patterns of our cards and our banners. Our headers, these are different headers. So if your school or department has a logo lockup, you could use the box logo. Otherwise, you would use the text logo if you don't have one. And this breaks down the anatomy of kind of how it works, and the multiple levels of the navigation. And then here are our components. And the way this is set up on our design system website as well is it kind of breaks it down as a description, the anatomy of how it's put together, as well as the different states. And we provide desktop, tablet, and mobile versions of our components. Um, so we have a core set of components, as you can see, and we're continually updating and adding to it. But this really provides a foundation for starting creating your website. And I'll demonstrate how I start and put things together. So I guess there's a couple ways to start. One is just blank slate. So just new design file. And so you create a new frame, go to desktop, um, and just drag a desktop frame. And then I would apply our grid. So just to check to see if you're connected to the UCLA Design Kit library, you would go to your assets, and you have this little folder. And this is where you would see that the design kit library is attached to the design file. So if this isn't here, then you wouldn't have access to our components. So it looks like it's connected. I'll go back to this. First thing I would do is set up my grid. Here's a layout grid. Since I'm on a desktop, I would choose desktop. And then I would start off with like a header. So again, find a text header. And you literally just drag it on to the page. And to access the variants within the header, you literally click into it. So here's the header. Just double click into this, double click again, and then you would start to see the variants appear on the right. So right now we have 6 navigational items. If say you only have 3, go down here and it changes it to 3. Um, and within this, it's a component of components. So you double click into this, and this would be the component for the actual menu item. This is where if you're going to demonstrate a hover state or focus state or the current state, that's where you would select it. And if it had a drop down or not, that's where the menu you would toggle on and off. So same thing with our secondary menu. We call this the emphasize link, usually for donate or for some CTA that you want to call out. If you don't have one, you just unclick it. And I believe we have up to 5 levels of navigation. You can see an example of this on Gateway. Um, so yeah, that's the header. If I want to bring in like a banner, here's like a ribbon text banner. Just literally drag and drop it in. And again, you would double click into this to see the variants within the banner. So here's like four lines for our ribbon text, 3 lines, 2 lines, or 1 line type thing. So this is kind of one way to start a design file. A quicker way, which I would recommend, is accessing our templates, where this is kind of set up ready. So you would do that by going into our design system folder. And we have these web page templates, and we're gonna start putting more out. I think right now we just have the blank page, but we have like a card page, event page, landing pages, just to provide a quicker starting point. So I would select blank page. And again, this is a template, so you just kind of copy and paste it. So you could see the grid and everything it's applied here already, including the footer. I just copy it and I'll paste it onto my blank document. And I would use this as the starting point. Um, and I'll show you how you could access the different versions of, like, say, the room text banner. So here's the desktop version. And then from here, I would select the mobile version, I mean the tablet version. And then we have a mobile version as well, which is right there. So you can see the fonts kind of they scale down according to our type scale. And I'll show you how that works here. Like double click into this. You can see like under typography, this is where this would appear if you're connected to our design kit. This is where you would select the H1s and the mobile versions, the corresponding mobile versions. So this is a desktop version of this lead paragraph. So it's already set at 24 pixel font size and 30 pixel line height. And on mobile, it's automatically, it would correspond to the mobile version. There's a tablet version. So you could use the preset font style that we assigned, or you could break it apart and adjust accordingly. Deselect it. And then inserting an image is fairly easy. I think Lauren demonstrated that earlier. Just double click into it, select image, upload from computer, and there's the PAL library. So you do the same thing for all of them. And so this kind of quickly demonstrates how you would start a design file based on our templates. Um, and yeah, that's it. I could show you some examples of what I've put together. Um, Here's one I recently did. This is for Office of Inclusive Excellence. And this is kind of how I set it up for our dev, kind of like a blueprint, do call outs. And this one incorporates video. So this is like a video banner that we've been using more and more. And this is in prototype mode. And you can see like some of it is it's layout, it's page layout. It's not necessarily just put in a component and you're done. It's like how to arrange the component onto a page. So, something like this, it could just be one column or it could be multiple columns. Same thing with the quote, the backgrounds within the quote. I think that's where there's flexibility in the design. So it doesn't look as the same. And yeah, this is kind of how it breaks down. I'll show you the grid. Shift G to toggle on and off the grid, but you can see how everything aligns to the grid spacing. And this is our component. Like these are components. These are components, image banner. Um, So yeah, there's a bit of a learning curve with Figma. I learned a lot through YouTube, and I highly recommend YouTube. And also just to kind of play around with it. I think auto layout is the main thing. Like here's auto layout where if you adjust the text, it'll keep the spacing. Like it's a key feature that I use a lot. Shortcuts I use a lot too, like the command and my scroll. I use it a lot to zoom in and out. Like it's probably the most used feature I have. Um, so yeah, I think it's just a matter of getting comfortable with the platform. Like it's changing, it's updating. Some of the AI features that Lauren showed, I didn't even know existed, but those are really cool, to see. Um, so it's just a matter of becoming familiar with it. And that's about it. I don't know if anyone has any questions, anything specific.
Hey Paul, quick question, Brian here. Thanks for this. This is really great design system. Curious with the different formats in terms of desktop, tablet, mobile. Do you also integrate breakpoints into those? So say if I'm on a
Yes.
desktop and I scale it for some reason that it adapts to the mobile version that you showed as well.
Yes. Let me share my screen. So here's our design system website, and it's really broken down in the layout section. Um, so, so the design system itself, it's agnostic, so it's not tied to one specific CMS. So I guess it kind of depends on who's building your CMS or if you're using ours. But the way ours works is here's the breakpoints, here's the columns, here's the spacing, the margin, and um, kind of how it works. So our mobile versions, I usually design with the smallest resolution because if it works on the smallest phone layout, it'll work for all the phones. So I think it's always challenging to make it fit on the smallest layout possible. So it's the 320 pixel, and the breakpoint is right there. Once it gets to 7068, it goes in the tablet. And once it gets to 1224, it gets to the desktop.
Got it. Thanks. That's great.
Mhm. Yeah, I guess that's one of the main things with our design system is it's to provide the documentation that we didn't have before on how it works. So if there was someone building their own WordPress version of this, that they could clearly follow our language.
Annie has a question in the chat. Which program did you use before Figma?
Before Figma, it was probably Photoshop. I mean, XD. It wasn't quite as robust as Figma. And I think that's why we kind of adopted Figma because it became the industry standard and is very developer friendly as well. So we kind of went with that.
Hi, Paul. This is Adela. You mentioned that you watched some tutorials on YouTube. Is there a
Mhm.
channel that you recommend?
Um, Honestly, no. It's probably a mix of YouTube and TikTok, and I'll get my information anywhere I can just to make whatever I'm trying to do work. YouTube has been the most helpful in terms of actually walking me through the steps. I think GPT helps just as well. But yeah, I don't think anything really stuck unless I did it myself and I made the mistakes and kind of just figured it out.
Okay, thank you.
Figma actually has a YouTube channel that has a lot of great resources. And also, they post a lot of sessions from the Config conference on there too, which can be interesting to see if you're interested.
Yeah, and I just wanted to also point out our design system, our design kit, we also made a series of email templates. So it's not specifically for web pages. Our email developer, Kathy Cardoza, helped address and emails are like a whole different animal because it's so restrictive and the dark mode thing. So, it just goes to show that you could use these for other applications other than just front-end web. So our goal is to, again, create more Figma templates as a starting point, as well as templates on the CMS level. So we have our WordPress theme that kind of mirrors our design kit. And so what we're seeing is a lot of stakeholders, they're probably like Figma might be a little bit too advanced for them, where they don't need to do it at that level, but they need to get a page up. So what we're going to do is offer these kind of pre-made templates within the CMS where they could kind of fill in the blank. Like it's already laid out and they could work from the CMS level as a starting point. So yeah, there's a lot um, on our roadmap.
That's great. The The Design Kit has so many resources. It's really helpful for designing. So yeah, thank you so much. That was terrific to find out more information about it. Thanks for joining us today. And we want to also open up the floor for any additional questions, or if anybody would like to share a project they're working on right now and talk about it for a couple minutes, and just open the floor up to the community. Any announcements or anything else anyone would like to share?
So, Paul, Annie asked what programs did you use before Figma? I just filled in with my answer, but they might be curious to know like what other options you may have used.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I was mainly Adobe everything prior. And then it just seemed like the industry was moving towards Figma, so I adopted Figma. But I think before when websites were built, it wasn't really as technical as it is now. Like even design systems wasn't a thing. People kind of just made new buttons every time. And I think that's one of the main things we want to address is not recreating the wheel every time to pull from a library of pre-made components. So you could focus on more important things like content and layout.
Hmm. Diana also has a question. How was the process of getting developers on board with the design system?
It was great. I mean, I think it was a joint effort with working with Alex, our lead dev, in making sure that these translate well. It's not an exact one-to-one translation to a CMS, but for the most part, it's pretty close. And I think for the most part, developers appreciate that there isn't so much randomness, that there's some order to things, like especially spacing or type scale or things like that, like not choosing some arbitrary number or, that there is a logic to the design.
Do you find that the developers are using a lot of the tools in dev mode, such as code generation or connecting it into VS Code?
I know our developers use the dev mode to pull code or the values um, from the design. Um, and I believe there's a plan to tokenize some of our design elements like spacing, typography, so it would be easier for the devs to make these changes.
Mm-hmm. Nice. See, Nick asked, have you played around with the make features, especially with the UCLA library?
I have not played around with the make features. There's a lot of features I haven't played around with Figma that are really advanced. Sometimes I use the prototyping for some of my presentation decks. Um, but otherwise it's more on the foundation level of like core components and layouts.
That is something that in our group we are looking into taking things more in that direction with Make, and even there's a service that Make uses that provides like where you can actually fill in a form and it remembers it in the prototype. So making the prototypes more and more advanced can be helpful for specific projects. But then I think when you're creating the design kit in the library, it's a different context. So that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, I think for the most part, we're learning more about the campus partners and their needs and understand there's like a wide range of users from like really advanced like developer designers to like coordinators trying to put together sites. So, something similar is like Canva, there's definitely a need for that type of service, and it could be applied within UCLA. It just depends, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, thank you so much, Paul. I really appreciate your coming today as our featured speaker. And we're looking forward to having everyone back for the winter quarter event. There'll be more information on that to come. And thank you so much. Really appreciate everyone coming today.